Mr. Sokolovic.
Yes, Ms. Visey.
Mr. McLeod thought that it was for 6:30. He's en route. He said he's 7 minutes away. He says if you start in, when he gets, he'll do whatever else he needs, and we'll get the recording off of our YouTube.
Awesome. Okay, thank you, Ms. Visey.
You're welcome, sir.
All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's a call to order for the Governance Committee. Time is now 6:02 p.m. In attendance, we've got myself, Joseph Sokolovic, Chair of the committee, Mr. Rob Traber, member of the committee, Mr. Albert Benahan is online, and we've got Dr. Levy David online as well. First item on the agenda is the approval of minutes dated May 17th, 2023. Do I have a motion to approve? A second. Do you find any material errors or omissions which to correct? Nor do I. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carried. Motion carried. Okay, next up on the agenda is number 2. Discussion and possible referral to the full board revision of policy 3515 and its related regulations R1330 regarding the use of school facilities. Dr. Levy, David, before we continue, was anybody able to reach out to the city and get somebody to speak on their behalf about Lighthouse program?
Unfortunately, not.
Okay, well, that doesn't mean we can't proceed. I mean, we got 2 reads and talk amongst ourselves and make any possible changes, and then they could come in and speak later. But it would behoove them to try to get themselves a discount, because they don't want to speak up for a discount and try to full free. But I'm still not opposed to a discount, but they got to come and talk to us. Okay, so do we have that policy? Could be brought up on the screen. Who's got control of the Dr. Levy David or Ms. Bajek?
I'm not a presenter.
Are we frozen? No, I'm not frozen.
No.
It looks like
I do not have control of the screen.
Ms. Bajek? Can you give permissions to somebody or put the policy up, please?
I am working to see that I can get that for you. Just a moment.
Thank you.
Are you able to view that now, sir?
Oh, yes, thank you. And the main area of focus we were on previously was, let me see what page. It's not numbered in the packet. The page right above the fees, can we scroll to that?
Do you need me to scroll further?
Yes, please. Next page. One more, please. Yes, this page right here. The most pertinent section we were looking at before was Bridgeport Board of Education has established a schedule of fees that include a rental fee for the use of space as well as labor costs associated with custodial, security, and cafeteria services. All organizations, agencies, or individuals except the following will be subject to rental fees listed. And I'll read them all out first. All school-related student activities, Bridgeport-based nonprofit youth organizations, such as Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, Bridgeport youth or adult activities sponsored directly by the city of Bridgeport, such as recreation programs, civic groups, and cultural groups, etc. Board of Education, parent-teacher organizations, city of Bridgeport municipal agencies, Board of Education, employee group activities. Was discussed at the prior meetings. Basically, a consensus was formed around was only keeping number 1, school-related. Number 4, Bridgeport Board of Education, parent-teacher organizations, and number 6 for employee group activities. Where we left off was discussion of what groups would get discounts and what the discounted rate would be. And we were supposed to have some negotiations with Lighthouse at the time, but then the Lighthouse director was changed and the superintendent was changed as well. So that's where we stand today. And look at the difference is for those new to the board and new to the superintendency, there was approximately $566,000 in potential revenue that Lighthouse was paying. I forget that number. $75,000 or $85,000 for. And when we told them their costs, they questioned the use of rolls of toilet paper, that we were charging them too much for toilet paper. So even with that great big discount, they were still complaining that they're not getting enough funding for their program, not enough of a discount. So that's a lot of lost revenue. The city has a budget twice as big as ours. This hasn't been negotiated in probably 7 years. 7 years was the old number. So we're the city alone, we're leaving $460,000 on the table in lost revenue. Now, a lot of the argument is, but they service our kids, but so does every single other organization that comes into our building. They service our kids, yet they get charged as well. So the question is, do we make them pay the full freight, or do we make them, with no exceptions except for people related to Bridgeport Public Schools itself, such as the bullets we mentioned, or do we offer a discount, which should probably be the same to every group? Discount would be up, has to be discussed. Probably our largest user, but I would posit that if they don't show up to advocate for a discount, that we just charge full freight for everybody. Discussion, Mr. Trader.
I think that we need to ask them to show up. I think that we also need to get them to pay more. And I think that we have to get that done now. Are we going to refer this to the full board? We're not. I'm trying to pull up my agenda again because I got to the page.
Yes, and action item.
So can we refer this to the full board for a vote?
Yeah, but I would like a little more discussion versus.
Well, I know this has been an item of frustration for many years. I go back to attending Board of Ed meetings easily 8 to 10 years ago, where it was being hotly debated as to how much they ought to pay. And I understand that at one point there was even discussion of another provider being brought in, and that was dismissed or shot down. So I think we just need to look at how much they should be paying, because we are providing this space and we're not getting a fair amount. Superintendent Levy David raised last night a problem we have with revenue for bus drivers. We know that we want to have more revenue for school teachers. We have a laundry list. Mr. Benahan raised the need for revenue for parent services. So we have a lot of revenue and they all need to be looked at, and Lighthouse is one that needs to be looked at too. So I think that we need to either raise the rates, and if they want to come in and sit down and talk, we'd love to talk. But I think that we need to move to raise the rates and hope they'll come in and sit down and talk with us and we can have a reasonable discussion.
We're going to move on to members online and then superintendent. Mr. David Judd, Mr. Gelman. If you're trying to speak, Mr. Gelman, you are on mute.
I'm sorry, I wasn't trying to speak. My apologies. Thank you. Acknowledge my arrival.
Mr. Benahan.
I'm gonna pass. Can you say Miss Dr. Levy David when she's done? I will say something. Thank you.
Dr. Levy David.
Thank you, Mr. Benahan. I just wanted to just advocate a little bit in favor of maybe adding a little bit more flexibility to this policy. I think that our schools are incredible resources for gathering, for safety. They're temporary shelters when we need to use them in that manner. And they also serve in a variety of ways. We have so many different organizations in our city that we are currently in partnership with. And I am looking to extend those partnerships, not contract them. And in some cases, that may require the use of our facilities. I do not want to have people afraid of engaging with the district out of the lack of ability to host or have a space that's appropriate, that is safe, that is newer, that has a lot of the safety features that we provide in our schools for our students and that we want to continue to provide for every member of the community. And I would like to advocate for us to be more flexible in the way that we allow people access to the resources that, quite frankly, their taxes are paying for. And I know that there is a need for us to find ways to gather resources. And I am working on providing and planning a lot of different strategies that will definitely generate revenue for the district. I just think that the use of our facilities it's a little bit closer to low-hanging fruit, because typically the people that will ask to use it are people that we want to be in partnership with, people that we want to provide services for our kids, people that we want to ensure that we're providing equity and access to our students. And so I really want to advocate for us to develop a policy that's a little bit more flexible with not only what is charged, but whether or not a fee is charged. So I just wanted to add my 2 cents to that discussion. Of course, that's going to be completely the decision of the board, but I wanted to definitely offer my recommendation in that direction.
Mr. Benahan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I know I heard you, and you say something about the lighthouse and question. I don't know if it was in the report. Do we know exactly how much money exactly the lighthouse pay for when they use one of the building? Is about the year or monthly? I just want to know the amount if we have it.
A year, I mean, I have the exact number of time. I think it's 75 or 85, and petrol cost for lighthouse alone using our buildings, the new software was in approximately $566,000.
Mr. Joseph, I'm sorry, I hear you very far away. Can you speak a little loud for me, please?
Yeah, we could get potentially about $566,000. I may be off a little bit on the number, but we're only getting about $75,000 or $85,000
by year.
So $400,000 and change left on the table.
So that's like $75,000 by year, every year?
Yes, sir.
Wow. And my other question is, do we have a report when, the other organization come to use our buildings? How much money like they pay when each organization use one of the BOE building, and where exactly that money goes, who control it, who have it, and they have it, what we use it for?
Well, the facilities department does the the school use building policy, and they calculate the fees to be paid. There's not very many. It was included in the last report about, when did we start this? About 6 months back. We can pull that up for further discussion at another time. it's not available right now. But, it's, it goes through facilities, and I assume the money goes into the general fund, because money is fungible. It could be placed anywhere, in any pocket, anything. So 500, whatever money we spend in one place or collect in one place, could often go between uses. But we do incur, like right now, we're incurring expenses because the lights are on. If we weren't here, the lights could go off and we could save money. If we weren't here, we wouldn't have to have clean up crew later or whatever have you, because built into the policy is a certain amount of hours for security and a certain amount of hours for cleaning services. So that's the cost we're gonna eat, no matter how much we want these programs in this building. So when you're talking about $400,000 in lost revenue, we're talking, how many paraprofessionals can we work through the whole year for the assistance of our kindergarten children for that amount of money? And how do we make it fair where one group has to pay and another group has to pay? To Dr. Levy David's point is we really want these people in our building, but do we want to treat one group like a second-class citizen and another group like a favorite citizen? And we cannot afford to open up buildings free for in no way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I agree with you, Mr. Chair. Thank you so much. But that situation with the lighthouse, we need to be working more, because I can say King School, the whole school, they're very small school. One bill can come $75,000 just because of the light. So I know another moment, the next meeting, we can talk about that budget. So you know, I'm always on top of that. But thank you, Mr. Chair. No more comment and question. Thank you.
Anybody have any comments, questions, Mr. Chair?
Is the policy as we developed it, does the policy as we've developed it, Mr. Benahan, I'm going to rely on you to let me know if you can hear me as Mr. McLeod sets up the equipment. So if you can't hear me, start tapping your ear. But I'll try and speak loud enough until Mr. McLeod gets us set up.
I hear you very clear, Mr. Trevor. I hear you very clear, Mr. Trevor.
All right. So does this policy allow for the kind of flexibility with other organizations that Dr. Carmela Levy-David is asking for? Will the board have that flexibility in it?
No, but we can incorporate that kind of flexibility into the amended policy.
Okay.
Which I could.
So if we refer it to the full board, we could amend the policy before the full board to allow for that kind of flexibility on a case-by-case basis.
I'd be reluctant to do a case-by-case basis. I got a proposed language, because we could send a proposed language to the board and work it out there. And I suggest that I'll make it in the form of a motion, and it's going to be basically what it's going to do is first knock out these three, knock out three of them, and then put it in a separate line where the following groups may apply for a discount of X% and need that to be filled in by the full.
What about other groups that we don't anticipate?
Well, there's only 6 people that are already getting free. Only 6 groups that are not subject to the fees. I'm proposing to take out the other 3 groups. There's other groups coming up. It'll be, I mean, it's all encompassing, all school-related school activities. Students, good. That would be said. Bridgeport-based nonprofit youth organizations such as Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts. That language lends itself to expansion to other groups, Bridgeport-based groups.
Yes.
And then,
so for instance, Caribe that uses the gym over here would be a Bridgeport-based nonprofit organization.
Correct.
Okay.
And if I'm not mistaken, most of the groups in the city are paying our registration, building fees. I'm not positive on the exact basis which is which, but we could actually get that. We could actually pull that report and have that before the full board with building, without paying. And that's part of the discussion from the full board. So and then we got City of Bridgeport municipal agencies. I don't think they do anything right now. I mean, they hold a police exam, civil service exams are always held at Central. We open the building, we provide lights and everything. And that was particularly vexing for me because they got a giant city hall that they can also utilize, and they've got spaces where everybody can sit and do. But they use this building free of charge and basically use our resources for nothing. And personal pet peeve is we're already under resourced based on the funding coming out of the city. And so this is like, I mean, what else?
Are you looking to get this out of committee to the full board tonight?
Correct, and I can do that in the form of a motion. It's gonna be I would like to entertain a motion that,
So let me just ask before you go there. Dr. Levy-David, do you have particular organizations in mind when you talk about wanting greater flexibility?
Yes, I do.
Could
There are
you-
different organizations that bring activities to our community that are non-traditional activities that they would not have access or exposure to otherwise. And they spend a considerable amount of money securing that talent, those experts, and flying them from overseas and paying for all of their expenses while they're here. And all they ask in exchange for what amounts to about $20,000 of their own money from these organizations is to be able to use our facility to provide a day-long experience for our kids. One is the chess tournament that we've had here for several years. I want to make sure that we can still provide those opportunities for our students here in Bridgeport. There's a considerable amount of opportunity for them as long as they are able to have exposure to those activities. And there aren't very many other large venues where we already have students with the familiarity with our facilities and also adults that know our kids. And so I really prefer to have the option of hosting those types of events in our facilities with our adults who are able to ensure the safety and security of our students who ultimately are the audience.
Would that not be covered by the current policy?
Not as it's currently written.
Mr. Sakala? Is that because they are for profit, Dr. Levy-David?
It is not for profit, it's a nonprofit, but it lists a very specific example, Boys and Girls Club, Boy Scouts, I'm sorry, of America. It's a very specific example. So I am not sure, there isn't verbiage that says and other similar types of organizations. There isn't verbiage that indicates that flexibility in the current policy document as it's written.
let's first try to take care of, I got what you're saying, Dr. Levy-Davis, and I believe I can incorporate it into the motion, but it's gonna be two pieces. Oh, I apologize, everybody. Gonna be like a two-piece, so I'm gonna separate this. I'm gonna separate this into two pieces. So I would like to entertain a motion to remove number 2, number 3, and number 5 as exceptions to the rental fees and place them under a new heading stating the following groups may receive a discount of blank % off the standard rental fees. And in certain cases, the fee may be waived in its entirety with approval of the Board of Education. Does that sound right?
That does sound right. I think I'm trying to find the language now to see it. I'm going from agenda to language. Oh, I got it. question.
No.
Right.
Oh, that's another thing, I know Dr. Levy, you're new, and Mr. Vajay, you're just returning. We usually have somebody tracking this language and making a note. Mr. McLeod, could you capture that in its entirety?
Yes.
From the minutes.
Not immediately, but
Right.
after the meeting, sure.
But we went around, found it best practice and have somebody actually tracking the language. Because I could bring proposed language, but then it gets shot down and has to be changed, so it's best to be done like on the spot. Somebody could have, it's been done differently under different superintendents. Testani would track it himself, and Ms. Perrin had Ms. Santos do it. So as long as somebody has it open as a PDF, it's the best way to track the changes. Document.
So try and read it to me again. We delete 1, 2, 3.
No, we're deleting 2, 3, and 5. And they'll be placed under the discount portion.
2, 3, and 5. Now, are these not school-related agencies?
The Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts?
No.
No.
Chess Club.
Yeah, I was thinking that as you said.
Dr. Levy David, when this occurs, is this sponsored by the school's chess club? The district's chess club?
That's a good question. I'm not sure if it's been sponsored. I don't believe it is. This is an outside, not-for-profit organization that hosts this activity in our district annually. Our school's chess club participates, but they are not the ones who actually sponsor the event. The event is sponsored by a nonprofit agency.
We invite them in.
Yes, they participate.
I would feel that would fall under.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out if that falls under the, that I hear what you're saying about them not being, and I'm also thinking that insofar as we invited them in to be hosting this tournament in our district, they become a school-related. So I see why we need to be clear about that.
But it would still be, I would see that as a student-related activity if it's like, if we're inviting them into our schools, unless we're opening it to the whole community and say.
Do outside organizations participate, Dr. Levy David?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear your question.
Do outside organizations participate in this tournament?
This is open for Bridgeport Public School students.
Only.
I would have to verify.
That's the question.
They can also be incorporated in a separate discount, or have an asterisk free with Board of Education. And what you're speaking of sounds really like, at least this one particular part of it.
Yeah, this is.
Maybe one building for a day or two or something like that.
We're trying to write a policy on one example, and that's not good. It's not one that any of us are disagreeing about, frankly. Oh, did we lose Dr. Levy David?
No, she's still there. She's, I think she just popped took off.
You're back. This is not an example that any of us disagree about. And so it's hard to write a policy on an example that we don't even disagree about, other than to try and figure out how to write it. Do you have any other examples, Dr. Levy David?
That one was really the big example that I wanted to bring to your attention as something that could potentially.
I think that it's not the intention of this language.
Yes.
To exclude anything like that is perceived by all of us to be of benefit to the district and the students. It is the intent to make sure that organizations that are capable of paying more are paying. In particular, the ongoing dispute between the city and Lighthouse and the board on whether or not they're paying their fair share. But there are other organizations too. Mr. Scala just mentioned the police department. When they do use this facility, one of our facilities versus another city building that they could be using for the same purpose that they're using it. So I think that we just need to have, the idea is to have a policy that we can be clear to and provide us guidance as to how we deal with situations. It is certainly not the intention to stifle anything like this, Chester, that you're pointing to. It is the intention to offer us some guidance with regard to how we deal with situations like the Lighthouse or the police department exam or other situations like that.
And I appreciate that. I don't want to have a chilling effect on any organization that wants to bring opportunities to students in our community. I know that, at times when we have these meetings and people don't know the background behind the discussion or the item, they'll make assumptions and they'll say, well, we can't use district facilities. And so I don't want that message to go out that if they can't pay the rental fee to use one of our facilities, that we're not going to welcome them bringing opportunities to our kids.
No, ma'am, I think that we certainly can make it clear that it is not our intention in the least to discourage any kind of creative and innovative activity occurring in our schools that will benefit our children. Right?
Yes. And I'm trying to think of the second, third line. But if we could just park these two parts first, and then we could create the language around just getting all policies that come with these. Policies haven't been looked at in 10 years. Some of them, this one's been here a while as well. So how about first we take the motion that I made, and then we'll make a second motion for discounts, and then maybe a third motion to incorporate Dr. Levy's concerns.
Yes.
Okay, cool. There was already a motion to remove 2, 3, and 5 and place it under the heading of discounts.
So that's the nonprofits such as Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts. 3, Bridgeport Youth and Adult Activities sponsored directly by the city of Bridgeport, such as recreation programs, civic groups, and cultural groups.
Correct.
And City of Bridgeport municipal agencies
Correct.
to discount.
Right. And
And that would be set up under a discount.
right. And then there'll be those first
To
two.
be determined by the board.
Correct. And I could even probably try to write some of this when I get home as well.
Okay.
And
So-
then under that will be under the discount will be 2, 3, and 5.
2, 3, and 5.
Students, if you are parked in the fire zone outside the gym, please move your car. You're blocking in vehicles. Again, if you are in the fire zone, please move your car immediately. Thank you.
And before I get to Dr. Levy, David, I'm going to try to address your concern. We vote on that motion?
No. So I second your motion.
All in favor?
Well,
Aye.
I,
Okay, now to Dr. Levy David's concern before I get to you, I think I could address that concern. Notwithstanding the above language, groups may appeal to either the superintendent or the Board of Education for free use of facilities. Yes,
what I just said?
No, not Dr. Levy's thing, because we got the separation already.
Right.
It's already approved.
So now we're saying.
So now we're trying to say-
We want to say what I said, which is,
Okay.
it is not the intention of this policy to discourage activities in our schools that benefit the children of our schools. right?
Correct. I don't know how.
And the board will entertain the use of the schools, the facilities, or any such activity at a rate. Well, I'm happy.
Yes, no disrespect.
Yes,
It's getting a bit wordy and policy the best. As truncated as
Try
possible.
and write it yourself, tell me again.
Right, hold on, let's hear from Dr. Lee David. Maybe she could.
Go ahead, Dr.
Clarity.
Doctor, you're on.
So I did get clarity regarding the chess tournament, and that event is open to any Bridgeporter for free who's under the age of 18. So any child or any student enrolled in our schools is entitled to attend for free. The other thing that I thought about was that today I participated in the ribbon cutting in the Hall Center of the dedication of the STEM centers in the name of Alan Wallach. And I can see that program growing very quickly to one that may involve competitions, expositions, all sorts of STEM related events that we definitely want to be able to use our facilities for. And they may be sponsored internally or they may be sponsored by someone external. This is something that is growing across the nation, and I want to make sure that we are able to host these activities and not have to visit policy when a request is made for it.
But if we're hosting it, Dr. Levy, I think, Levy David, that's a district activity. And that's covered by this policy,
Thank you both.
right?
Okay, good. I'm just trying to come up with exact language that will cover.
We're not talking about activities that we don't host.
Fees. Case basis with of attendance and education. How does this sound, Dr. Levy-David? Little asterisk beneath everything. Fees may be waived on a case-by-case basis, with approval of the superintendent and notification of the board, to the board.
That sounds great. Thank you so much for that.
So I make a motion to add an asterisk on the bottom of the prior mentioned language, reading, fees may be waived on a case-by-case basis with the approval of the superintendent and notification to the board.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Thank you.
Aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. Motion to present this policy to the full board.
Second.
At the next regular meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries. Okay, next item on the agenda is discussion and possible referral to the full board revision of policy 5131 and its related regulations. This was prior staff one. Yes, 5131 was student discipline. I don't know if it was carried forward, but we did say we would discuss it at the next meeting. I'm not even sure that David is up to date, and that's an oversight on my part. I did not read her in on this one. I tried to read her in on all the policies, but this one seems like it's not even too familiar to me, so I may not have. Because this is what we was the prior superintendent for revision. Yeah. So,
Yeah, I'm having a hard time hearing you, sorry.
yes, this next policy is 5131. This was initiated by the prior superintendent of revision of the policies, and I'm not sure I actually discussed this one with you at all, or even gave you a heads up. So I don't know if you're familiar with where we were with this one. Would that be the case or not?
I would need to postpone this discussion.
Okay, so I would like to make a motion to postpone this until the next regular meeting, and I'll try to brief you on this one. So I gotta actually refresh my memory on this one because I was going by.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I,
Apologize for everybody. Number 4, update on school moving policy, the focus group. Do we have, I forget his name now. Do we have an update from the school moving policy? From Hoy? I see it, George Garcia. Good Lord.
your moments are available.
Yes.
He's retired.
56. Dr. Levy Davis, do you have any update for us?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the item?
School, update from the school moving policy group, work group.
I still couldn't hear that, I'm so sorry.
All right, the school policy work group for the moving buildings and school building, not school building, school moving group.
I do not have an update at this time.
Okay, can we schedule a meeting with the work group so we can have an update for the next meeting? Can we schedule it now so we could get all 3 of our heads together?
Absolutely. What is the date of the next meeting, sir?
The next facility, it's always the thing. What is it? Where are we? This is 1, 2, this is the third Wednesday, the second one. Third Wednesday. So it'll be,
Third Wednesday.
it'll be October 1, 2, 3, October 17th. So if we could pick it down, I'm available anytime. I'm flexible. I'm retired. But if we could all 3, the work group consisted of me, Ms. Brown, Mr. Garcia, the prior superintendent, and a deputy superintendent. So if you wish to add a 4th to attend with you, maybe somebody else, that would be great. Because this is about, this policy came about, I don't know how familiar you are, about Harding High School. We received terrible press. We wasted so much money leaving stuff behind that wasn't moved. And then it was discovered because we had no policy. Finished with a building and just sat there.
Correct.
So we're trying to correct for that, and Bassick, it seems like a long time away, but this policy is a monster that really has no prior policies in place anywhere in the state. I asked Kate for assistance and they had nothing, and there's a few around the state that we integrated a little bit of so far. But as we get closer and closer to the new Bassick, the less time we have to implement the policy that is formed.
I'd be happy to meet and schedule that. I have considerable experience with activation and deactivation of facilities. So I'll be happy to schedule that and have that discussion.
Awesome, that's great. And did you see a copy of Mr. Garcia's the proposal to date so far?
We actually in the facilities committee had a discussion at length about the pieces that we were going to need to have in place in order to not miss the deadline for the approvals that we needed to get the process started. So that occurred, and that we're going to actually be on time to have that process starting in October. But we did not go so far as to engage in activation and deactivation discussion at that time.
Right, yes, so that's why we're building a policy, because there's actually no policy, no checklist, there was no lines of responsibility, but we got a good start, but we just need to do some tweaking and more spitballing. Okay, so thank you. So we'll get that scheduled together. Does anybody have any comments on this? Not really an action item, it's just an update. Mr. Gillen? Mr. Traver?
No comment.
No
No comment from me. Sorry. Good.
Okay, no
Someone
worries.
get off mute.
Thank you. Mr. Benahan?
No comment, no question at this moment, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Okay, and I believe that takes care of that item. And the last item is discussion and possible referral to full board for policy creation of board packet material posted online. If we can please bring up the two attachments I sent to Ms. Vajay, that's directly from Kate. Bring up the higher number one first, please. I think we can dispose of that real quick, because it looks a little too cumbersome, but I do want the board to review it. Committee to review it.
The request was to have Ms. Valle bring up the document, sir.
Yes, ma'am. 9324 first.
Locating.
Thank you.
You did say 9324, correct?
Correct, that's.
All right, here you go.
Because personally, I have no taste for that. Could you make it? Yes, thank you. I have no real taste for this one, because it seems like it's way a little too cumbersome.
Where do you? Okay.
I'm trying to read it on my screen. Oh. Bear with me for 1 second, please. Okay, you see where it has like a bunch of bullets. I mean, this is based out of a new state law that passed, that we must put it in the portal, not in the portal, on the board website along with the agenda. So without having this policy and without doing so, we would be out of compliance. But I got two sample bylaws from CAVE to consider. This one seems to have a bit more to it. We have to, I'm just gonna, just take little pieces. And so each board member clerk. See, under this one, clerk, we got to give it to each board member, the board clerk, student representation, to the public in the administration building after 3 p.m. Fridays, in addition to posting meeting agenda on its website, any documents reviewed by the board members. 2 copies of the agenda to be sent to each building principal, 1 copy of which is to be posted upon the bulletin board in each school, and copies of the agenda shall be forwarded through school mail to the presidents of each bargaining unit and presidents of PTA, PTO organizations. Does that sound palatable to anybody? Hearing none, can we open? Oh, yes, get that. David. Dr. Levy.
The question was, I didn't hear your question, sir.
Does it sound palatable to incorporate this policy? It seems like there's too many steps and hoops to jump through, and the next one is much more streamlined. I just wanted to have full transparency and present both to the board.
Yeah, I would love to have more discussion on this policy and the challenges with implementing this policy.
All right, so let's put up the next one, Ms. Vajay, please. The first one, 9323, please.
One moment, I'll retrieve.
Thank you. Mr. Benahan, in the meanwhile, you got your hand up, I see.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, thank you. Sorry, I'm agreeing with Ms. Carmela because I'm reading this policy. It's very different than what we know. So I would like to discuss and talk about this a little bit more. So to be clear, especially, you know, for the parents be involved with the PAC and PTA, so we can let them know, clear the message for them. Now that we have a new school, you know, beginning, and we're gonna have new elections too.
See, here's my big problem with that is we would have to make sure if we create a policy where the principal got to put it on a bulletin board, if somebody got to give it to, when this is not done, we're in violation of policy. Policies, in my opinion, are best kept simple, which 9323, in my opinion, does. We've already got the posting and the materials. If we could scroll down to, wait, I've got 9323. Can I see it on there? Posting the agenda. Last paragraph will be incorporated into our existing. A little more down. Thank you. In addition to posting Board of Education meeting agenda on its website 24 hours prior to the meeting, any associated documents that may be reviewed by members of the board at such meeting will be made available on the board's website prior to the meeting. That could just be incorporated on the bottom of the most recent iteration of the posting of the agenda that we already have in our policy, and it's the same policy number. And that would only require one more thing of everybody, is to just put it in onto the website, which seems a lot less burdensome, cumbersome than the aforementioned policy. Thoughts? Mr. Geller? Mr. Traver?
Yeah, I just want to say that a month or two ago, I asked for a copy of the policy because I frankly wanted to check on certain policies. And I was given a copy and then I was told, well, it's a few years out of date. And at last night's meeting, we were waiting to hear back from Mr. Baptiste Perez about the policy on how to chair the meeting if she couldn't make it back from a deposition in Danbury, and we never heard back. So I came to the meeting not knowing how we were even going to run the meeting. And so I just think that I need to know where we can locate the policy so that I know how to look up what is going on. So if that's what we're talking about here, if I understood you as I'm driving, anything we can do to make that accessible to us on the board and the members of the district, both parents and staff, that would be useful.
Yes, and I agree. That's one basic practice that we never achieved, and then we were about to get it posted, and then there was the whole superintendent shift from one superintendent to another. I was working with Ms. Santos to get it posted, but going forward as best practice from the committee, as we approve the policies, it needs to be uploaded into the website basically immediately as soon as it's voted on by the board. And I had asked for the posting. Dr. Levy David, can you have an update of where the policies are? Dr. Levy David?
Okay, so what I would like to do is to recommend that we have as a full board a work session on this item so that we can have discussion and clarity with all board members present. I don't think that without having all of the board present that we can have a reach consensus on this particular piece. And I do believe we do need to have all board members present to reach consensus on this piece. There's several limitations that I need to bring to your attention with making this a viable policy that we will be in compliance with.
Okay, I'm sorry. My question, two things for that one. My question was updated policies being placed on the website for all board members and the public to see.
What was your question, sir?
All policy updates through the prior administration.
No, they have not been updated and placed on the website. We're still trying to locate all of the policies that were approved, when they were approved, and the minutes thereof. There have been several personnel changes, as you probably are aware, and there wasn't a transition made for these documents in order to ensure that myself entering as the new superintendent or the staff replacing those that departed had these items readily available. So we're having now to research minutes from prior board meetings in order to ensure that we have the appropriate policies and that we can post the appropriate updates and not post erroneous information for the public.
I believe they were all placed in one folder before.
They were not. They were not. We have spent a week looking for these items. They were not.
I may have a copy of them somewhere. I'll look at my own records because I know it exists somewhere, and I know I got a copy of it. I just got to go into my own records, and it's probably take a couple hours to find them. I know that. But okay, now on to the second portion. This is not an option. This is a state law, state regulation that we must do. Otherwise, we're out of compliance with the state regulation. It's not about if we can, how hard it's going to be. It's we must, by law, have these materials posted on our website.
Sir, I fully agree. I fully agree that this is the law and that we must comply. But at this time, with the current personnel that we have on hand, we cannot meet those timelines. This office is so busy that we never have a chance to have lunch. There are people here constantly. The phones never stop ringing. There's always a crisis or something happening somewhere that needs immediate attention. I provide you guys with incident reports at the end of each day so that you know all of the things that we've been navigating. All of those items require sometimes several hours of the day to resolve. And it requires members of my team to support with researching, informing, making phone calls. And the only time that we have left, usually we're all here till 10 or 11 o'clock at night just to complete the day's labor. So with the current personnel that we have on hand, what you're asking is not tenable. We understand that it's the law and that it's required, but we will require additional support.
Yeah, well, respectfully, policies and state law was updated with far less staff in central office and prior administrations. So I do believe we should at least reflect our policy as board members to be in compliance of the law. And if we're not in compliance with the law, our policy must reflect we as board members, elected officials who swore an oath to uphold that law, at least do our part to get there. And so I'll entertain a motion at this point to add number 3, copies of the agenda shall be forwarded.
Before the motion, if I may, I have already had a conversation with board chairwoman who is not present tonight regarding the need for a board clerk to address a lot of the items that you are referring to and to help with this research and to help with that workload. There simply isn't a body in this office that can dedicate themselves full time to all of the work generated by 9 members of the board body. So we do need additional support in order to do that. The policy itself mentions a board clerk. We do not have one.
Okay, thank you. Taking that into account, I'll take a motion to add the language to the most recent iteration when it's found, when it can be gotten around.
So moved.
The language, yeah, let me just read the language, please, first, Mr. Wu. In addition to posting the Board of Education meeting agendas on its website 24 hours prior to the meeting, any associated documents that may be reviewed by members of the board at such meeting will be made available on the board's website prior to the meeting.
So moved.
And I shall second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And I believe that is the last agenda item, so I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Have a great day, everybody.
Have a good night, everyone. God bless you all.
Night. God bless. I hope you both feel better.